So this is an IOL exchange surgery for a refractive surprise. You can see a well-centered monofocal lens in the bag. This patient wanted EDOF, so we decided to put autofocus pro. This is 1 week post-op, and the first thing you can see is I'm using a blunt spatula to open up all the wounds. Now I'm injecting a heavy dispersive OVD, that is viscoat, and I'm trying to inject some amount of viscoat between the lens and the anterior capsule to separate the lens from the adhesions. And now using a blunt spatula, I'm just pushing the optic behind and trying to insert the spatula, and the spatula has gone behind the anterior capsule and it has separated it out from one side. Now this is a horizontal chopper with a blunt tip, and I'm just making sure that the lens is well separated from one side and then inserting it and pulling it from the other side to ensure that the separation is there on the other side as well. Now, once I'm satisfied that the optic and haptic both are free, I use a spatula and the chopper using a bimanual technique to lift this lens out from the capsular bag into the anterior chamber, and then repeating it from the other side as well. So now the lens has come into the anterior chamber, and the next step would be to cut this lens in the anterior chamber. So again, I'm inserting dispersive both beneath and above the optic to ensure the cornea as well as the posterior capsule is protected. And this is the IOL holding forceps. So just trying to ensure we get a good bite of holding the lens. And now this is the micro scissors. Now note, while I am cutting, I am pushing the lens backwards so that I'm cutting in the center of the eye. I cut about half and come out. The reason to come out after cutting half is so that we can always replenish the OVD inside the eye. Don't be afraid to use copious amount of OVD for such cases. Now once again I'm taking the forceps and holding the lens. And now since half the lens is cut, I'll pull the lens towards me so that the latter half of the lens can also be cut in the center of the eye. I go to about 90% because that should be enough to get it out. This is a 2.8 millimeter incision, so it doesn't require extension. A 6 millimeter optic, if cut in the center, can come out through the 2.8 millimeter incision. So one half is out and it breaks, but the other half also comes out through the 2.8 millimeter. Pupil has come down slightly, but now it is critical to remove all the dispersive OVD that we have put in, because the dispersive OVD staying in the eye can cause IOP spikes later. Now I'm using a light OVD like HPMC and just making sure that the rhexis margin is intact. This is the Autofocus Pro EDOF lens. Uh, so this goes through a 2.8 millimeter incision. The lens is slightly bulky, and since the pupil has come down, it would be slightly difficult to manipulate this lens, but it's got these dialing holes which make it easier. Now, both the dialing holes of the Autofocus Pro have to be placed superiorly for optimum function. So I'm just trying to see the position of these holes. You can see one hole there. So now I have to dial this lens to almost 270 degrees. So again, using uh, the hole, I'm dialing the lens, and now going in from the other side, just making sure that both the holes are superior and this lens is placed in the correct orientation. So that is the end of the surgery. And this is the post-op day 1 slit lamp videograph. You can see a clear cornea with lens in situ. And this patient did very well with the intended near vision as desired.